Hello and welcome to the Unit 3 MicroLesson. Now in this particular lesson what I've done is I've created two sample loops so you can kind of see how they operate and the difference between the two. I've created two different buttons. I've called one button count. I've called another button until. Now the count button is very simple for next loop. All it does is I click it and it uses a message box combined with a concatenation to make it say, oh, this is the value I, which is my count value, and it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, boom, done. Right? So it goes from 1 to 10, it shows that message box 10 times, and then round. For next loop, specific number of times. And then you have the until loop, or do while loop, depending upon how you want to do it. When you click it, I have this do while loop matched with an input box. And all the input box does is it continues to take an input no matter what. There's a D, a 4, enter, blah, blah, blah. And you'll notice in each one of these cases here, it doesn't matter because it says enter stop to exit. Otherwise, it will continue to ask this question. So I can, all day long, continue to enter in information until I type in the word stop, S-T-O-P, right? Then it's done. Now I'm going to go ahead and get into the code a little bit so you can see how I went about doing that. So I'm going to go to the design view. I'm going to go to design view of the count, and there should be two code samples, which I'm going to move on over here so we can take a look. Blah, 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 blah. All right, so there's a command counting. I called it CMD counting, right? Which is this particular button. I guess I could have called it CMD count, whatever. And I dimmed I as integer. This is the actual iteration integer, or the iteration variable. It's called an integer. For I equals 1 to 10, this means it's going to count every time it goes through this entire loop. It does whatever is between this 4 and this next once. So in this case, I'm going 10 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Boom, right? It says MSG box, which is our reserved word for the message box. And in quotes is what it says. So this, it will prints to the screen. This is the I value. So this is the I value. And this ampersand, what that does is that's a concatenation of a string. So what that does is that takes this, blah, 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 blah. This is the I value, and it adds onto it whatever I is. So the first time it goes to this loop, I is 1, then 2, then 3. So each time it hits this next I, it's iterating I by 1. So 3, then 4, then 5, then 6, and 7, 8, and 9, and 10. And now I could put this up to 20, and then it would do it 20 times. I could do this, let's say I'm going to go ahead and do this to 5. And if I do that, and I come over to here, and I change my view, and I do count, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it should quit because I've changed the for next loop so it only goes from 1 to 5. And if I change the first letter to 0 or the first number to 0, right, the way it should then work is count 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's then going to execute 6 times, including 0. So there's that part. Now if I come down here to the until button, do until str entry equals stop. The thing about a do until loop, a while loop, however whatever you do call it, is that the for next loop loops until it reaches loops for a certain value, 1 to 10, 5 to 80, whatever those values are. There's a for and a beginning value and an end value. The do until loop continues to loop until there's an exit condition met. Now you could make a hybrid and keep track of the number. You could iterate numbers within it like I equals I plus 1, and then until you can say do until str entry equals stop, or I equals 5. So you're only going to give people the chance 5 times to enter in data. Okay, however you want to go about doing it. But our simple example, do until str entry equals stop. Or I could do, like for instance, if I change it to no. I don't have to use that voice, but no. So str entry, input, enter, stop to exit. Now, Whatever I put in the input box is simple syntax. Excuse me, simple text. So if I left stop, it would say stop, but it wants you to put in no, right? So I'm going to put in enter no to exit, right? So now I'm going to come along in here. I'm going to push until, and it says enter no to exit. Otherwise, it will continue. So now I put in stop. I put in blarg. I put in 1, 5, G, however you pronounce that. Or I put in no, boop, no, right? So no. Now it starts to get along to the concept. It hasn't quite hit yet. I don't know if they've talked about it yet. But you want to begin to put in comments. And the way comments work is if you put this little apostrophe, right? Boop. What that does is this is the variable that holds the iterator, right? It should come up green. That green element, everything behind that apostrophe, indicates it's not executable, but it's there to give me an idea of what what this particular line of code does. So this is for 0 to 5, I could put behind it, this displays in a message box what iteration we're at, or what number in the loop, right? Notice it's green, you can't see it. It's not going to execute, but the idea is when you come back after a long bit of time, you can actually see what that is and go, oh yeah, that's what I was doing there. Because sometimes it's so much time has elapsed between the point in time where you do something and the point in time where you get back to it. Sometimes you forget, and these are known as comments. So that gives you a quick idea of, number one, this is our for next loop. Remember, for next loop is really reserved for I know the number of times it's going to execute. Boom, done. And the do until loop, I keep calling it do while, right? But the do until loop, do while loop, whatever, what that does is that continues to loop until an exit condition is met. Meaning that I could go in and I have to get some sort of input from the user in order for it to stop. Now, a lot of times, well, not a lot of times, but one of the things they tell you to worry about is what's considered to be an endless loop. With a for next loop, an endless loop rarely happens because you're waiting for the iterator to be done automatically with that next I, right? So very rarely that happens. However, if you have a do until loop that you're waiting for the user to input data and you do not have a circumstance where the user can input that data, congratulations, you've given birth to an endless loop, meaning there's no way that it can actually exit out of the loop. So it's endless. It just keeps asking, asking, asking. Now, in this particular case, I can actually hybrid the two. So I can ask the user some question in here, and then whatever the answer to the user, I can set I equal to 5, so it stops. Or I could go in here, and I can have some sort of iterator, as I mentioned before. But for our purposes, for the simplistic purposes, these are the kind of differences between the for next loop. Once again, the for next and the do until. The for next loop is, I know how many times it wants to run. The do until, I want to continue to loop through until such time as an exit condition is met. So that concludes a little micro lesson for you this week. I hope it helps you out. Let me know what you think. Have a very good day. Goodbye.